Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to go to Trondheim, Norway, to speak with Trond Andresen. He's a lecturer in control systems using math tools for dynamical systems modeling applied to macroeconomics. Trond was invited onto the program at the behest of Keiser Report regular Dr. Steve Keen. Trond, welcome to the Keiser Report.
Thank you.
All right, Trond, Greece, Spain, and Portugal are in deflationary spirals. Give us your recipe for an EU nation to gradually exit from the Eurozone through a parallel digital currency and how this could help.
As I see it, these countries, they lack the necessary money to circulate in their countries so that they can transact and work for each other and exchange goods and services. And they are sort of being bloodletted by the Eurozone, and people are not spending. So what we need is to institute a parallel currency. And this is not historically a new idea. You had that sort of experiment in Austria in the Great Depression in the 30s. But they did it with paper in a small town called Wörgl, and it worked very well before it was stopped by the Austrian Central Bank in 1933. But now you can do this for a whole nation using electronics or the mobile network so that people can transact with each other with SMS, no bills and coins. And if a government in these depressed countries wants to do it, they can simply start issuing an electronic money by paying their employees, their pensioners, and for goods and services with a share of electronic national crisis money and the rest with euros.
Okay, so this idea of parallel currencies, as you've mentioned before, has been tried before. It's worked before. It's been proposed for Greece before. For example, this would give Greece, if they had a parallel currency, a way to devalue that currency as a boost to the local economy. The problem right now is that the euro can't be devalued, so they're imprisoned in many ways by this euro, which is being set by Germany. But having a parallel currency would give them a way to devalue their local parallel currency against the euro and thus stimulate the economy in ways that other countries are doing with their central banks, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, essentially, Greece is in a situation where they don't have their own currency, just like, say, a dollarized country in South America or an American near bankrupt state. So they cannot issue their own euros. And then they should issue their own crisis currency, a national currency. And the elegant way today to do it is doing it completely electronically, no bills and coins. And this has a lot of extra advantages.
Right. So what we're seeing around the world is the adoption of electronic currencies, digital currencies, virtual currencies. They are powering all kinds of startups around the world and economies around the world. In Kenya, for example, mobile payments and digital currencies and Bitcoin are becoming huge. Bitcoin, being an electronic currency or cryptocurrency, is now gaining traction all over the world. But even without going into the area of developing a cryptocurrency or having Greece adopt Bitcoin as a currency, you're saying that just using the current technological framework of mobile phones and the ability to create a virtual currency like you see on many gaming sites out there in the world that are multi-billion-dollar, a lot of gaming sites like Grand Theft Auto Part 5, if you add up all the economic activity of those games, it's probably greater than the entire GDP of Greece at this point. So you're saying why not use the available tools to kickstart the Greek economy using electronic currencies, correct?
I think the key word here is kickstart. And for something to kickstart in a country like Greece or Portugal or whatever, you simply need a tool for the government and the country's central bank. And if there is political will, you can next week simply start paying expenses for the government and wages and pensions in a share of this new electronic currency. And everyone has a mobile phone today. So it will start circulating into the economy, and firms and businesses will then have the choice of saying, well, I'm not accepting this new currency, I demand euros, and then they will get less business. So firms will be forced to accept it, and then firms will be starting to pay their employees in a share in this new electronic currency. So it will sort of percolate into the economy, and then it can be taxed back again, so that the government says that, well, we pay out in this share of the new crisis currency, and we tax back again in the same share. So you have a closed circulatory system under control of the government.
Okay, so Trond, you mentioned that the currency would be issued by the government. There's obviously a benefit there in that the government could then tax as they would normally do, and you have, as you describe it, a closed circuit which is running in parallel with the rest of the economy and the euro. But my question is, why not have the Greek citizens take matters into their own hands and issue their own electronic currency outside of the government? We're seeing this, for example, with Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency. What about the Greek people, instead of being in the streets and inhaling the noxious gases being thrown at them by the government, why can't the Greek people simply do this for themselves?
Yes, this is a very good idea. And of course, you could say that, well, the government are completely enthralled to the Troika and the EU system. So even if something is possible, they won't do it. And then you can imagine some sort of alliance of popular organizations and grassroots groups in Greece, for example, saying that, well, we will institute our own electronic crisis monetary system for Greece. Of course, then you won't have the mechanism of fiat money, because, one of the reasons that people have confidence in government money is that it can be used to pay taxes. But if people are in need and they see that when someone tries this sort of new grassroots type of electronic currency and it works, then more people will start using it, and you will have a positive spiral of growing confidence, even if this money has been started outside the government.
Okay, so Professor, I want to reiterate the fact that the people in Greece, based on available technology today, can end their crisis today by simply introducing for themselves an electronic currency shared amongst themselves, running in parallel with the euro. So going forward from this day, we can say that if the Greeks do not adopt this solution, it's because they're masochists, they don't want a solution, they enjoy being slaves to the euro. But let's move on here. The crisis that burst onto the world scene in 2008, has anything changed on the structural side of the economy? And can we expect, therefore, if there hasn't been any reform, another huge crisis, another huge event, Professor?
Well, this is not my sort of area of expertise. But to me, it seems that the Eurozone is more bogged down than ever. And I don't believe much in the sort of, let's say, things are turning to the better, etc., etc. More debt is piling up. Pessimism is widespread. And things are completely stuck. And it also seems that the Troika is continuing with a program of disaster capitalism. So I'm very pessimistic. And I think that using this new technology, creating some hope and optimism will be very good. And I also think that instituting a national parallel crisis currency in a country will give the country a much better negotiating position towards the Troika. Because today they are a complete victim of blackmail. They have to have more euros all the time, and they don't have any sort of positions of power themselves.
Well, let's talk about a couple of other European countries, because Greece is not the only country that's being victimized by the Troika. You also have the country of Ireland. We saw something happening in Cyprus, and Italy is also on the chopping block as well in terms of the sharks at the IMF and the Troika circling. If Greece is too foolish not to take this direction forward for whatever reason, could a country like Ireland or Cyprus or Portugal or possibly Italy, could they step up and be the leaders in this to fight back against what I call the financial terrorism of the Troika? Your thoughts?
Yes, I mean any country who is a member of the Eurozone and doesn't have the possibility to issue their own currency, someone in these countries can do this, and if it is successful, it can spread. The problem was earlier, for simply technical reasons, you had to make paper bills or even coins to make parallel currencies. Today you can do it for the whole nation in one swoop. Electronically. So I think this is just something that's around the corner. It's just like the digital camera substituting or meaning the death of the film camera.
Well, I guess, Trond, the obvious question here is why not simply recommend that Greece start adopting Bitcoin? It's already in place. It's an unhackable cryptocurrency. It's being now used by merchants all over the world. I think BitPay is the leading merchant processor. They've got over 10,000 merchants using Bitcoin. Why not just recommend to use Bitcoin right now? Let's just go to Bitcoin and forget the euro, forget fiat money. We want real money. We want cryptocurrency. We want Bitcoin. Why doesn't Greece do that?
Well, I would not say that I'm an expert on Bitcoin, so I'll be a bit careful here. But I think that you must be able to issue the necessary amount of currency and inject it into the economy and be able to inject more or less based on how things develop. And Bitcoin is sort of comparable to gold or silver or something. It's a scarce resource that is a bit unstable and volatile, as I see it. So I think that what's needed is some sort of mechanism to control and inject money as it is needed in the country in question. And that you can do electronically by injecting and taxing back or whatever.
Okay. So to be clear, there are two possible electronic paths. There's the path that you're describing, which is to basically replicate the current monetary system, but electronically, and create a parallel currency by the government. They can tax that money, and they can therefore devalue that money, and they can become more competitive in the global economy, and they have a way to leverage and to negotiate with the IMF. That's one path. The other path would be just take Bitcoin off the shelf, start using Bitcoin. What you're describing as the shortcomings there is that you don't have the ability to increase the supply of Bitcoin on the spur of the moment because the supply is very carefully regulated through the Bitcoin protocol. And some people refer to that as a deflationary problem. Others would see that as more of a need to keep the economy being productive to be competitive. But either way is a good solution. My case for Bitcoin is that it would be available today and that the Greeks can stop their pain immediately if they want to. The choice for pain going forward now is entirely on them. Anyway, we're out of time, so I want to thank you so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you.
All righty, and that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Trond Andresen. If you'd like to get in, he's a very sci-fi name, isn't it? Trond. Anyway, if you'd like to get in touch, tweet us at Keiser Report. Until next time, Max Keiser saying bye, y'all.